This is part 10 of a series where I cover an iceberg chart I made concerning Undertale and DeltaRune. If you haven't seen any of the previous parts, do so before watching this video. This video contains spoilers for Undertale and DeltaRune. If you haven't played the games or certain parts of it and don't want to be spoiled, I recommend playing them first. This video also contains swearing and is not recommended for younger audiences and is intended for ages 13 and up. All images, music, and footage are owned by their respective owners. Don't go after or harass anyone mentioned in this video. Hey everyone! We are back with the final tier of the iceberg, tier 10. With this being the final tier, let's not waste any more time and get through the last of An Overstuffed UnderTale and DeltaRune Iceberg Explained. Tier 10, The Dark World or Toby Fox. You are Toby Fox, creator of Undertale and DeltaRune. In your life, you have made many things, both within the community and outside of the community. Your work has touched the hearts of many, and while there is so much to do, it's fine, because you'll know what to do with the information and plans you have. The final layer of the iceberg. It contains the obscure information about Toby Fox pertaining to the games, and other entries that didn't fit anywhere else on the iceberg. Papyrus Is Gaster. There are a few people who have the theory that perhaps Papyrus is Gaster due to the fact that in entry 17, Gaster is seen speaking in all caps. This could also explain how Sans seems to know more than Papyrus often shows. Mount Ebott real-life location. Fans have been looking and speculating for years where Mount Ebott, the mountain where the monsters were sealed underground, could be, or at least what real mountain could have inspired it. The closest thing that could be the real Mount Ebott is Steinberg, Germany. There's also a Google Maps location for Mount Ebott, but this seems to be a joke. Essence. When monsters die, so does their soul, and what remains is their body, which has turned to dust, and contains some of their essence. The monsters have a practice where they spread the dust around the monster's favorite objects, and essence was part of how Alphys was able to create Flowey. Neither of them could fix the machine, no matter how hard they tried. In a now deleted tweet, Toby said, "You've all seen the happiest outcome. Neither of them could fix the machine, no matter how hard they tried. No one can." This most likely refers to the machine seen in Sans' lab, and the them could refer to Sans and Papyrus or Alphys. This tweet also raises a lot of questions about the machine, which seems to be completely unfixable in what it could do, and if fixing it could bring a happier or worse ending. Suzy Inu. Suzy Inu is the name of an anonymous artist who made several songs for Homestar Runner. No one knows the real identity, and some have speculated that it could have been Toby, given that the music is similar to Toby's. Suzy Inu can be an abbreviation for Uzai Inu, which is Japanese for annoying dog, and Toby himself is a fan of Homestar Runner. Due to the anonymity of the artist, many imitators have come up claiming to be them. One that was well known was a SoundCloud artist who was also a Toby Fox imitator who posted various fan-made music of DeltaRune. Sarah. Sarah served as special inspiration for Mettaton. Loneliness feeling. In an interview with Indie World, Toby Fox stated this: "I was going to make the cell phone a character, able to talk to the player. I felt the loneliness of the game was damaged because of it." The game itself is pretty lonely, and while there is a lot of characters, they don't start off as our friends and you're the only human in the underground. And they never stay with you throughout your journey, even if you befriend them, and you leave them behind after your encounters. This is shown even further in the Genocide route, as you are the lone human that goes across the underground killing everything, and turning the underground into a ghost town. Papyrus is the hardest boss in hard mode. This was a super small and obscure rumor that stated that Papyrus in hard mode was the hardest boss fight in the entire game, even more so than Stan's in Undyne the Undying. This is spread by people who never actually played hard mode, because as we all know, hard mode ends with Toriel, and hard mode hasn't been extended past that since then. Birthday Overflow. One of the developers for DeltaRune, Taxidermy, added a surprise for Toby during a quote-unquote bug report in Chapter 2, where typing in birthday boy on the internet creates the annoying dog with a birthday hat before spinning around before the game crashes. Flowey is the prince of the Dark World in UnderTale. There are two theories that relate to this. One theory states that Flowey could be the prince of the dark due to them being created from the darkness of True Lab, and the other from the fact that at times, Ralsei can be seen quoting Flowey, meaning that perhaps Ralsei is the Flowey of DeltaRune. The river person is Ralsei. There's a theory that the river person's identity is either Ralsei from DeltaRune or UnderTale's version of Ralsei. The evidence comes from the fact that they wear similar robes, they speak similar to each other, they both sing, they speak of a prophecy of the DeltaRune, albeit in different versions, and they both have knowledge of a third species and a person that can travel between worlds. Knidred Spirits. Knidred Spirits is the first UnderTale AU to ever be created and completed, being written 7 days after UnderTale's official release, and hours before Dreamer Reborn was released. It was written by Quill Sparks, and is a short story about Frisk during their post-pacifist dialogue with Asriel, who they see as a brother, sharing part of their soul with him so that he won't turn back into Flowey. Hidden sounds on the TV at the end of Chapter 2. A now deleted Reddit user talked on r/underminers about how during the TVC at the end of Chapter 2, they noticed some noises that's distorted through the static noise from the TV. They then looked through the files and found that the audio was distorted. At the end of the post, they linked an edited version of what this sound could be. Suzy is Mad Dummy's daughter. When Clam Girl talks about her neighbor's daughter, it's possible that she's referring to Mad Dummy. It's also worth noting that Suzy and Mad Dummy have similar eyes. Flowey.EXE. Originally, after Flowey absorbs the human souls, the file, UnderTale.exe, was supposed to be renamed to Flowey.exe. This was likely not done due to how complicated this is, and just the fact that most systems can't have this happen. Knows E people like you. There's a gap between the syllables in the word nosy in abc_123_8.ogg that may not be able to be heard at first. This is due to FL Studio's text-to-speech feature not being able to pronounce nosy correctly, so instead it was written as Nose E. April 2012 is Demoscene.oga. There's a set of songs made by Toby Fox intended for a Homestuck project. It consisted of muscles.ogg and a pitched down version of April 2012 called Demoscene.oga/mp3. The Stable. Through a string of text within the code, it seems that there was originally going to be a horse stable at Napstablook's snail farm. The text in question states, "It's a horse stable. Do you want to go inside?" You jostle the door. It's locked. Suddenly, from the Redacted, you hear a... More code indicates that you're supposed to look through the trash can to find the key to unlock the stable. If you do so and go back, the same character from room_water_redacted appears. Genocide ending is symbolic of the birth of Ahriman. The Genocide ending may share in common the birth of the Zoroastrian deity Ahriman. The story of his birth tells of how Zurvan, an androgynous being, desired offspring to create heaven, hell, and the in-between. Zurvan would then sacrifice many things for thousands of years, until finally doubting if what they were doing was worth it. From the sacrifice, Ormuzd was born, while from the doubt, Ahriman was born and ripped through the wound to emerge before his twin brother. The second voice. It's agreed by many people that the vessel maker is Gaster due to their similar speech patterns and dialogue. This, however, may not be due to the Japanese translation. This is due to how different Japanese is compared to English, and there are two styles of the Japanese language used, formal and informal. In the Japanese version of Undertale, all characters speak in an informal, childish manner. However, Kara is the one exception, as they speak in a formal manner. In the Japanese version of Chapter 1, the vessel maker speaks in a way that is confusing and mixed up, but that changes until they disregard your creation and say your choice doesn't matter, and proceed to speak more in a formal manner and in the same tone as Kara. This sort of leads into two voices in the intro. A theory goes that the voice you hear in the Gunner Maker consists of two voices. The first voice asks you all the questions, and the second voice tells you that the creation will be discarded. The theory goes on to say that the first voice is Gaster, and the second is Kara's, and DeltaRune is a struggle between Gaster, who wants to create, and Kara, who wants to destroy. DeltaRune Tulpa theory. Tulpas are thought forms created through imagination and meditation and concentration in Buddhism. This can be compared to DeltaRune, since the Dark Worlds are created through imagination and concentration. It's possible that the power of Lightners used the Tulpas to make these worlds. Light is hope, dark is dream. A now deleted Reddit theory talks about how light represents hope and dark represents dreams. During the legend in DeltaRune, light and hope are on the left side of the screen, while dark and dreams are on the right side. The light world is the reality we live in, where we continue to hope for a better tomorrow, while the dark world is a fantasy that is fantastical and has our dreams. And Suzy and Chris are able to go into the dark world because the balance between light and dark has changed. Toby makes SilvaGunner rips. SilvaGunner is a channel that posts edited versions and different takes and rips of video game music submitted by various artists and composers. Undertale and DeltaRune are some of the most ripped games on the channel, with more than 1,000 rips in total. Some of the artists are anonymous, and some rumors and theories speculate that Toby himself could be making some of the anonymous rips. Heh, you've just opened the gates to hell. This is the line that plays in the Japanese localization when refusing to give Temmie temflakes instead of "can't blame a bark for trying" in a very masculine tone of voice. Toby lied about plans for magic. In a Kickstarter post for Undertale, a user named Jay asked if there was anything extra planned for the combat system on release, like special abilities. Toby then replied, "Nope, no special powers or magic or anything like that." This is kind of odd considering concept art for the battle menu shows a spell menu button. However, it's also possible that this answer came after the spell button was scrapped in Undertale. Real.DeltaRune.com. There's a website called Real.DeltaRune.com. It's unknown by most whatever this website was, especially because nowadays, whenever you try to go to it, it redirects you to starman.net. Blahblahblah. There's a hidden link in DeltaRune.com where if you type /blahblahblah after the website name in the search bar, it'll send you to a page with a sleeping annoying dog. Clicking on it will play a lullaby song that sounds somewhat similar to the Uwa songs from Undertale. @FwugRadiation. @FwugRadiation was Toby Fox's original Twitter and Starman.net names. You can still find it in older YouTube videos like the Undertale Kickstarter launch trailer and other social media sites. www.deltarune.com/him.png. Through archived links with the Wayback Machine, we can find that DeltaRune.com has existed since 2015. The entire page is black, but clicking the top right corner reveals an image titled him.png. The image is also black, but upon brightening it, it reveals winged text that says, "3 heroes appeared to banish the angels' heaven." What makes the connection between this and Gaster even more is that in UnderTale's files, Gaster's theme is labeled as use_st_him, and the first song of the DeltaRune soundtrack is called Another Hymn. PS4 launch trailer weird vibe. Compared to other trailers of UnderTale, the PS4 trailer takes itself more seriously. The game has a minimal amount of jokes, slow pacing, and critics praising the game, and as said earlier, the song Lantern was played instead. Hidden lore on backside writing of Toby's handbook. In multiple pictures that show doodles in Toby's art book, the back can be shown due to the pens using ink. However, some of the things that can be read include Dr. Alphys is the creator of the technology, probably a mad scientist, Grandpa Semi fonts, among others. This is what got people interested in Grandpa Semi, and this seems to give the idea that Alphys at some point was probably a mad scientist and made some sort of technology, perhaps the machine in Sans's workshop, or maybe it's referring to the technology seen in the lab in True Lab. Unrevealed Kanotynes characters. As stated earlier, the characters in Chapter 1 were based off of characters by the artist Kanotynes, but if you looked at the art, you may have noticed that some of them haven't been shown in the game at any point, a few of which are Spade Queen and the other queens who have never appeared. If you're kawaii and you know it, clap your hands. A pre-release image of UnderTale consists of Frisk in a dirt land with the lava creatures, and Toriel saying, "If you're kawaii and you know it, clap your hands." Sound test dystopian themes. A rather obscure theory or rumor is the idea that UnderTale at one point would have had a darker story. In this, monsters would have been under a North Korea-style dictatorship, and people who disobeyed would have been thrown into meat factories, and the themes in the sound test could have been what was left of this story. Quantum Egg Theory. A theory proposed by Reddit user Aurora_off. To keep things short, the egg is an item given by Gaster with some special properties that are strongly related to quantum superposition. The egg is located in a combination of several places and can be seen at one of them upon observation. It is very likely that someone infers on the egg's final location, as it can remain permanently on a location. Similarly, the phone value also seems to be based on quantum superposition, through the many worlds interpretation, as the phone value represents different branches of the universe with equal chances to appear and collide with our timeline, resulting in fun events. Gaster and Co. are most likely the ones behind the egg's odd behavior, as some of them are hinted to have some knowledge or expertise on quantum physics. Finally, the egg is also a message in Wingdings, probably hinting at the knight's true identity. Sans Mii costume leaked, but no one took it seriously. The story goes that an admin for the Discord server, Forest Maze, Paragon, had heard of some information of Sans coming to Smash Bros. As a Mii costume, which also led to him believing that Frisk would become a playable character. A few other credible insiders also heard of Sans, but no one took any of these people seriously. Gaster created Alphys. This was an obscure TV Tropes theory that talked about how Gaster could have possibly created Alphys as an organic determination extractor, which could explain her affiliation with determination, and Undyne and Frisk, who both have associations with determination. Redacted and Mystery Man are Sans and Papyrus. Redacted speaks in lowercase with an asterisk similar to Sans, while Mystery Man assumedly speaks in all caps like Papyrus. This implies even more connections with these mysterious characters than what seemed to be a popular fanon. I also don't know if this is just me, but I kind of see a physical resemblance between them as well.
Him.png is a Herobrine reference. One interpretation of the image's name could be that it's a reference to the website that popularized Herobrine, ghostinthestream.net/him.html, which contained an image under ghostinthestream.net/him.png and was formatted in a similar style to the website. I don't recommend looking any of these up in order to not get any viruses, but I will link a Wayback Machine archive for this website. GameTest_7. On May 3rd, 2013, Fangamer held a livestream where they played the demo for UnderTale. The version used was a supposed version of the UnderTale beta that was never found or was made before the demo's release, and what else it could have is a big mystery. The livestream is all on Twitch, which I'm also going to link in the description. The first piece of UnderTale fanart. The first piece of UnderTale fanart appeared even before the game was officially released. It was shown on Fangamer's demo livestream, and it was a drawing of MyGosp saying that he can grant wishes on a paper plate. TobyFox.net/msuix. This was an old leak where you can find unused or beta versions of songs that Toby Fox created. The directory wasn't meant to be there in the first place, and when questioned about it, Toby said, "I don't really care, it's just stuff I shared with my friends." Similar to the Herobrine website I mentioned earlier, this link does not work anymore, so don't go looking for it, especially because the link might send you to a place where you could get a virus. Unlisted FwugRadiation videos. Toby has some unlisted videos on his channel, some of which are for Homestuck, and some are YTPs. A lot of them have been privated due to YouTube's poor copyright system. Ralsei planned before Asriel. In an interview with Toby Fox, he talked of how he and his brothers would come up with their own ideas for video games when they were kids, and when they found out about RPG Maker, they decided to use it for these ideas. They never got far with them, but Toby talked about how his big brother's game was almost professional by comparison to their games, and mentioned various elements, including a character very much like Toby named Ralsei. He would confirm that he took Ralsei's name from this. Suzy cutscene based on Real Bully. In the 6th anniversary livestream during the scene where Suzy bullies Chris in school, Toby comments how the scene was inspired by a real bully in Toby's life who knew his mother and wanted her to be nicer to them. Toby's first tweet. The first tweet that Toby Fox ever posted was on July 8th, 2011, which says, "The edge of shadow, where reality and dream meet." Every copy and playthrough of UnderTale are personalized. Yeah, this is mostly an Iceberg joke. The "every copy of blank is personalized" is a common joke among Iceberg fans and was inspired by one of the first Icebergs to blow up in popularity, which was the Super Mario 64 Iceberg, where it mentioned the "every copy of Super Mario 64 is personalized" conspiracy. And whenever they put this phrase somewhere, it's never meant to be taken seriously. So yeah, it's mostly a joke. DeltaRune was leaked before release. A few people have claimed to have seen an image of DeltaRune, which was a screenshot of the first fight with Lancer before its release. Toby playing enemy approaching on piano. In an old Homestuck YouTube video, we see a younger Toby Fox playing enemy approaching on the piano. Conversation Simulator and PP connections. On Toby's old website, there are links to a game called Conversation Simulator and a RAR file named pp.rar. When downloading the RAR file, it shows an RPG game, while Conversation Simulator used an earlier version of GameMaker Studio. Both were apparently made for Starman.net's Buttfest. Toby's website on Wayback Machine blacklisted. Toby Fox's old website, FwugRadiation.fobby.net/Halloween used to have archives on the Wayback Machine, but no longer does. It's likely because Toby requested this, as it consisted of many things said by his old angsty self that he doesn't want people to see anymore, as well as some views that doesn't represent who he is anymore. The UnderTale website is the same thing, as there is a gap between May 7th, 2013 and June 23rd, 2013. This means that older versions of the demo are gone and cannot be verified. It's possible that this was because no one heard of UnderTale and thought to archive it, but it's also possible that Toby had influence over it. Lost demo removed content. SaveLoad Reset said that the sprites of Kara were data mined from UnderTale's demo, though it cannot be verified. Tumblr user Doge-W-AW-Bloge had discovered the Wayback Machine's blacklisting and believes that these sprites were never to be found, and maybe Toby wants to keep it that way. Except for Lost Demo Found. In a discussion post on r/Lost Media regarding the lost version of the UnderTale demo, a now deleted Reddit user linked to the best downloadable version of the demo from May 23rd, 2013. It contains some interesting differences compared to later versions of the demo and the official release of the game. DeltaRune Dreamers influenced by Toby's family. There are elements of the Dreamers that suggest the idea that they had influence in DeltaRune from Toby's real life and experiences. Whether it be a tweet in 2015 where he had pie possibly from his mother, or Ralsei being based on a character made by his older brother. It's possible that these are just influences and not straight up inspiration, but it's still interesting nonetheless, especially when taking into account other things like how both Chris and Toby have played piano in church. The real reason why Sans has the most AUs out of every other character. So while doing research for this topic, I came upon an old Reddit thread where Reddit user AS Komeda was asking why Sans AUs are so popular, especially because he isn't the only popular character from the game. I'm going to link this thread in the description, and there are a few comments in there that I think explains it best, which I'm going to summarize here. UnderTale became really popular since it broke the mold for an RPG, had great music, had enough twists and choices to make it worth watching multiple Let's Players go through it, and perhaps most importantly to this entry, had compelling characters. The internet decided to thirst over Sans because of the content pertaining to him, as well as the mystery, intrigue, relatability, and fans that revolved around him. Once AU started to become a big thing thanks to stories like Streamer Reborn, the most popular character started to get all the attention, and stories started to be made about him and the various versions of him, especially once the idea of them crossing over with one another became very popular. And to answer all the intrigue and speculation surrounding the character, allowing for many people to re-experience UnderTale through different ways, kind of like the Earthbound Halloween hack. And this was further pushed by the rise of the internet as a tool for fan content. This got to the point where Sans became his own fandom outside of whatever Toby Fox did in UnderTale and DeltaRune. We are now on the final entries of the iceberg, and I saved these two for last because I felt like they were the most important to talk about. Lore is left ambiguous and up for interpretation. There have been many topics that have lore in UnderTale and DeltaRune that is left unanswered. And while DeltaRune has yet to have all of its chapters released and have all of its lore explained, there will be undoubtedly some secrets and mysteries kept, with some stuff unanswered. But to give a few examples as to the various stuff that is unanswered right now, there's Gaster and his followers' identities, the origins of Sans and Papyrus and their apparent connection to Gaster, the reasons for Kara and Frisk being at Mount Ebott, why Frisk would be dead without Sans's help, the memory head's identities, the river person's identity, who the G in the wrong number phone call is, everything. These are questions and mysteries that we as a fandom often think about and don't have definitive answers to. And maybe it's kept that way on purpose. Toby hesitated a few times throughout the English script when it came to translating UnderTale into Japanese, that he wanted to keep certain things ambiguous so as to not spoil the mystery. It's possible that this was done so that everyone could have an interpretation of how UnderTale went. Whether that's how the gender for certain characters are left up for interpretation, whether that's being one gender or just them being non-binary,
Many people like to portray Gaster as the father of Sans and Papyrus. Many have interpreted Frisk, Kara, and Chris in a myriad of genders and lore. Many people have speculated a connection between the river person and Gaster, and that his followers were his lab assistants, and have done so much to come up with their own interpretations of Undertale's lore outside of what's already been established. Perhaps this is what Toby wanted, as other things he has done to keep things ambiguous has been how Frisk's bandage can be interpreted as a band-aid or a full-on bandage, the country or part of the world Undertale could take place in, and he tried to hide which of the brothers was older, but we know how that turned out with the Japanese localization. Because at the end of the day, Undertale is all about the choices you make and the experience you have while playing the game, not the lore that was established and hidden from us. I spoke about how earlier every copy and playthrough of Undertale are personalized is mostly a joke. I say that, but in a way, I think it's kind of true that every playthrough of Undertale is kind of personalized, as it is up to our experiences, what we take away from the game, and the joy we experienced along the way. And we don't always share those same experiences. And in a way, there's something kind of beautiful about that. And now we have reached the final entry of the iceberg. And that is Undertale and DeltaRune, or a retelling of Earthbound and the Halloween hack. To briefly explain the Earthbound Halloween hack, the ROM hack itself was made by Toby Fox's angsty teen self and takes place in a scenario where the four main characters never existed. The hack, especially nowadays, doesn't have the best reputation, especially because of the dialogue surrounding Kanotynes, and it's something that, as stated earlier, Toby Fox doesn't like talking about, calling it a bad ROM hack with swear words. However, it's also possible that what if Toby decided to remake the Halloween hack into DeltaRune, and that DeltaRune is to Undertale what the Halloween hack is to Earthbound? To quickly talk about some of the stuff, the hack itself went into the idea that asks if video game monsters truly deserve to die or not, as well as having the theme of a lack of choice. Toby describes how there isn't a lot of choice in game, and that you're destined to kill Kanotynes. And while there are two endings, they end the same way because it's all a joke about how the only real choice is to stop playing. And to stop playing a character who doesn't want to be controlled and is at this point dead, yet keeps going forward because of you. If it hasn't caught on to you at this point, these are very much the same, if not incredibly similar concepts in DeltaRune, such as how the main character is a puppet for the player, or how your choices seemingly don't matter. Similar to DeltaRune, as the player controls Chris, whose Dark World design could have been inspired by Varric, and doesn't want to be controlled. It also tried to dive into horror elements which weren't well done, but in Undertale, Omega Flowey and the True Lab are the closest things we have to horror in the game, and it's worth noting that Chapter 1 was released on Halloween. And the narrator in the Halloween hack also seems very different from the main character, similar to Frisk and Kara. One factor of the ROM hack is that it tried to tackle themes of people not being able to be themselves. Kanotynes is a repressed gay man and tries to destroy his own life in order to repress this homosexuality. In contrast, Undertale takes a much more lighthearted approach to LGBT themes, and people are allowed to express what they want. The underground has no homophobia or transphobia, people respect Frisk and Kara's pronouns, there is no shame among folks like Alphys and Undyne, and Madame Mew Mew and Metaton are transgender. But compare this to DeltaRune, and the positive direction goes into a less happy one. This includes Alphys and Undyne, who haven't been able to talk to each other, Metaton hasn't been able to transition, and how the game states that you can't choose who you are in this world. This leads the theory to believe that Toby wants to revisit all these themes from a more mature perspective. And the final and perhaps most important element of the ROM hack is that it's all based on nostalgia. Toby loved and grew up with Earthbound, claiming it dominated his childhood, shaped his preteen years, and it made him the person he is now, having taught him his sense of humor, how to read, and his sense of justice and courage from its lessons. So when he made the ROM hack, he made it out of nostalgia and to get more out of a game that had gone stale to him at that time. Perhaps DeltaRune is based off of the nostalgia of Undertale, a game which has given nostalgia and fond memories to the hearts and minds of millions of people across the globe. And perhaps DeltaRune's goal is to take and reshape the pieces of Undertale and reshape it into DeltaRune. After all, what is DeltaRune if not an anagram for Undertale? And with that, we end Tier 10, the video, and conclude the Iceberg. The next time I see you, it will be on the compilation of the Iceberg, where I will make corrections, add any new information, and additions to the Iceberg. So be sure to comment anything that you either missed about the entries, as well as any entries you'd like to see added to the Iceberg. I hope to see you all then, but until that time, see ya, and remember to stay determined.
The halfway mark has been attained. But it is still waiting.